Hello everybody, my name is Vic Gilgius and I'm here to do another podcast number 38, An Understanding of Uncovering Your Best Self. So I'm going to start by telling you a brief story, so bear with me. It's to explain a term I will use in hoping to explain or give you an understanding of how to uncover, bring forth your best self, which is always there. Underneath it all, underneath all this worry, underneath all this kind of whatever is uncovering it, is our true self, our innate okayness and ability to shine in the world, and it gets covered up. And so that's what this podcast is about. Now, when I first started writing, so this is my little roundabout story to explain one of the terms I'm going to use about what I call an overlay, but I will explain that now. Is when I first started writing, I took what I thought, I'm sure it is a tip, or was a tip, from a writer called Wayne Dyer, Dr. Wayne Dyer, an American psychologist and speaker, mentor, coach, all the rest of it. Brilliant guy, big guy. Met him from America. I met him in England, in London, at a talk. Very good. And he did a lot of shows, 1 hourly, or was it 3/4 of an hour, on Hay House Radio, and he wrote quite a lot of very good books on positive thinking, and The Power of Intention is a brilliant book he wrote. So that's if you read The Power of Intention, then you've cracked it. So yeah, so I was listening to him once, and he said that he used a purple pen when he wrote his notes for his books and his talks. And the reason he said that he used a purple pen was that it helped his creativity. So, I thought, well, any hack or trick helps. So what I did was, when I was using my computer, instead of, as you have a white in Word, that the word processing thing called Word is an A4 page on the screen, a white page. So what I did was, I copied Wayne Dyer's idea to give it a purple screen wash, a light purple screen wash, so that what I was doing when I was typing in and I looked on the screen, my typing was going on to a slightly purplish page, which I thought, made me more creative. Whether it did or not, I don't know. So when it come to getting what I'd written published, and I went through KDP, Kindle Direct Publishing, which is part of Amazon, and the system there is that you send your manuscript off to them, and I think it's a robot that looks at it at first, and it tells you any errors. So these are grammar errors, punctuation, spelling errors, that type of thing. And so first of all, you get a feedback of errors which you correct, and which is what I did. So we all make errors, and did that. But it got to where there was one error that remained, and I couldn't puzzle it out. And no matter what I did, this error would not go. So in the end, I contacted an actual person from the publishing end and said, what is this error? I can't understand what it's about. And they went off to talk to somebody else, and eventually, fairly quickly, come back to me, and was very helpful. And they said, what it is you've got an overlay across the page. And I said, what do you mean? They said, there's an overlay, and as soon, well, eventually, of course, it's this colour overlay that I put, and they said, you at your end, you've got to get rid of this colour overlay, so it's like in a white, as it normally is in Word, and that'll reveal everything. In other words, there is this overlay which is blocking what you're writing. And so what I did was I went back to my word processing thing, my word processing thing, and I got rid of this purple colour wash, this overlay. And all of a sudden that error disappeared, and the machine or the computer could see what I'd written. Now then, and so that is something I learned. I thought, crikey, well, I'm going to use this as a metaphor, really, for that's what's happening with ourselves in life, that there is an overlay over our psyche, our real self, our innate okayness in the world, an overlay blocking it from being shining in the world, being itself in the world, that we are constrained by an overlay. And I will talk about, say, two overlays. A quick one, well, the first one is I will call this the overlay of the world, the system, life. So when I talk about an overlay here, I'm talking about that we have to operate in a world where things that are required of us are, we want to look okay. Have we eaten enough? How do we feel? Have we got a decent job? Do people like us? So these are all the things that kind of our mind, this mind, looks at in terms of how it can present us, the self that the mind thinks we are in the world. And so because that overlay is there, what the mind says is, well, in order to, and it's trying to help us, that's what it thinks its job is. It is saying, so for example, say all of a sudden you get a feeling that you're not doing enough, or not good looking enough, or well off enough, or popular enough, or getting enough money in your job, or getting the right position in your job, or being okay enough, etc., related enough to others. So these are all the things that this is the overlay that the mind is looking at. And what the mind does is that the mind sees itself, its job, as looking at what it knows that you are in order to ensure that it works as efficiently as it can. Now, the trouble with that is, inevitably, because we're human, we start to fail in certain of these areas. So we're not good enough in this, we don't have enough of that, or somebody has looked at us wrong, or not given us enough, or life is not giving us enough, etc., etc. We could have a better house. Whatever it is our kind of things that come through to us that we take have as bad feelings about stuff, our life. So this is the first overlay, is life. Now what the mind does, it picks up on this feeling of not rightness about all these things, and we're all the same here. None of us are different. And what it does is it says, oh, okay, there's a bad feeling about X, Y, and Z, and let's try and sort it out. Now the trouble with that is that in sorting it out, it never gets sorted as well as, we get feedback that it's not working as well. So the mind, we bear down on it even more to try and sort it out. And in some areas we do, hooray, and in some areas we don't. And if you look at the overall thing, this is just a very stressful way to live. And why it's a stressful way to live is because basically we are looking at, the mind is looking at this, that and t'other, and is always on edge and trying to make a good completion. And when it doesn't work out, and of course things don't work out, it causes stress. So there is general life stress because of this overlay. Now, if this overlay is removed, and this is quite a serious point, a fundamental point I'm trying to make here. So you might be thinking, well, how can we remove that? We live in this world. What the understanding I'm putting across here is that the mind does not know how to solve any bad feelings we get from being not good enough in the world, because the mind does not know how to solve these bad feelings. What it does, the mind goes into thinking mode as to ways in which we can solve to get a better feeling about ourselves in life, but it is not capable of doing that. It is capable of going to the supermarket and finding out what's on what shelf and what we need and comparing prices and those type of things. But the mind is not capable of sorting out any bad feelings about our presence in life. And one of the things that is going wrong is that the mind is referring to the you that it thinks you are, and in other words, it's looking at your strengths and weaknesses. It's not looking at the fact that you are innately okay. It's not making use of an innate intelligence that is always within us. What it's doing is it's looking at its intellectual prowess to solve a problem of bad feelings about stuff in the world. And because there's always a tension there between what we want and where we are, this difference, and that's always going to be there, because the mind is saying, this is what I think you are, and this is where you are, and so do something about it. I'm going to tell you what to do because I'm going to think about it, and that, again, it's basically you are sat, for want of a better word, just ruminating about all this, and using the thought process to come up with solutions. When in actual fact, it's the man that created this problem by relating to a you that it can only know, but that you is not the real you. It's not working from an innate you. It's working from a you that is your background, your beliefs, your attitudes, your understandings, what have you, which is which basically is looking at a you that is constrained all the time, because it's working from this premise of well, you can do this, you can't do that. You've never done that before. This is what you believe. This is what you don't believe. Your parents told you this, or life is telling you that. Your boss is telling you, and so it's working from a version of a very constrained self, because that is what it thinks you are. So that's the first overlay. Now, if that overlay is removed, in other words, the overlay of your mind's look-see at all this, then for the first time, this can allow the real you to shine forth. So that's the first. I'll talk about two overlays. This first overlay I've just talked about, which is the overlay of life. If that is understood to be like a mirage, in other words, and it is trying to be solved. It's looking at something what it thinks is you, which is not the real you. So it's looking at a mirage, it's looking at something that is not real, and it's trying to solve it using an instrument that cannot solve it. So it itself is working off learnt information, old information, beliefs. In other words, the whole show, the whole overlay system is the problem. So the mind is looking at an overlay which is not real. It doesn't exist. It only exists as a figment of imagination. So in other words, the mind is giving you what it thinks is the answer to any problem, when in actual fact the problem in the first place doesn't exist, and the mind itself, with its way of looking at things, is just making things up. Now you might think, well, hang on a minute, this is how... So please bear with me, and whilst I go through the second overlay. Now the second overlay is the overlay of ourself, which I've partly explained in the first. The overlay of ourself is what I've just said, is our... we're approaching everything from our beliefs, from our attitudes, our upbringing, our perspectives, etc., etc. In other words, what we think, and when I say that self, where is that self? Is it in the mind? Is it behind the eyes? Is it the heart? Is it the heart? In other words, where is that self? It doesn't exist. That self is a construct. Let's just go. So in other words, that construct is our reference point for everything. So we have a problem, and the construct of ourself, which is made up, is trying to solve it. Now, what is the real self? The real self is the one that can be aware of what our self is doing. So there's an indication that, what we think is the self is not self. In other words, the fact that we can observe ourself. We are the observer. We are the awareness. And that is the crucial point here, the understanding that we are, that self I'm talking about, the real self, the innate okayness, is our awareness. Now that awareness is intelligent. So that awareness is always aware. It was there when you were born. It's there now with you. Over the years after you were born, you developed an ego and all these overlays of beliefs, understandings, attitudes, mores, whatever you want to call them. But that is an overlay. That is what is blanking out, being able to be with your awareness. Your awareness has got intelligence there. Now, there was a book by Lynn McTaggart called The Field, and that was about explaining the field of intelligence, the field of awareness that exists. So it exists, has always existed. So, for example, if we take the world, people call that Gaia. It is a system of awareness. It is aware of what's going on. There is an awareness right throughout the universe. And all our bits of personal self are into that field. And those personal bits are very subjective. So in other words, when we're trying to solve a problem of the self, it's always coming from some subjectivity. It's coming from what we think is the right way. It's very subjective. It doesn't know the big picture. Awareness does. Awareness is objective. And because awareness is our presence, our awareness, when we look towards that, and when I say that, I mean distance ourselves from the self that we think we are, it creates this sense of this space which gives us the objectivity that we need, because awareness is always in the present moment, now, and is aware of everything all at once, because it can see the big picture. Whereas our mind, which relates to what it thinks our self is always bound in time. It can only refer to what happened in the past, for example. It never relates to the future. So it never relates to the now, because it doesn't deal in the now. It doesn't deal with feelings in the now. It is always, can I say, looking at what's happened just now, and then is giving an idea, a narrative from, our thoughts of what to do about what's happened in the now after the fact. So it can't deal with real time. So another way of saying this, it's a bit like saying stuff has happened, stuff is happening in life to us, and I would say most of us, most of the time, go about life doing stuff, and we afterwards will say we should have done this way and that way, because the narrative here is looking at the self it thinks we are and trying to ruminate over all this and say, well, could it have all been done better? Whereas in actual fact, when we don't refer to this, and we know that we don't have to refer to this, because our awareness is always dealing with it in the now, in real time, because it's got the understanding, it's got the wisdom of what to do, because it knows what to do, and it is that is the better system of that is the. In other ways, it's another way of saying that we're built to cope with life because we are a pure awareness. But we are not kind of seeing that. So I don't know how to explain that any other way, other than on that second overlay of self is like saying, well, that overlay is false, but it's what we refer to. It's what we refer to. If that overlay is removed, then basically our presence, our essence, is able to shine through, because it's not got to try and first of all solve this overlay, because it doesn't exist. And the thing that's trying to solve this overlay, in other words, the thing that's trying to solve what doesn't exist, is a thing which is based on a misunderstanding, a lack of intelligence of how to move forward. So if we kind of get this understanding that already we've got the equipment, not this equipment, this is for a different job, how to plan and all the rest of it, all the detail, all the intellectual stuff, is that when we get the understanding that the system that we have, in other words, that we are pure awareness, which knows what to do, and that self, this real self, which knows what to do, is innately okay anyway. Because the problem has been is that the mind says that we're not okay when we are okay. So I probably confused you if I've explained it properly. So I will have a little conclusion here, is that we've got the wrong gear, looking at the wrong problem, because we're looking at this overlay, which doesn't exist anyway, that we are okay, and that if we sleep on things, if we, in other words, our okayness, our innate okayness, sort things out anyway. But what we tend to do is ruminate over things that have gone wrong, and use a tool that is not really capable of enabling us to put things right. In other words, in real time, our innate okayness can sort things out because it is pure awareness, and pure awareness is intelligent. It's up to the moment, it's in the now, it sees the big picture, which our conditioned self does not. So our mind is always relating to our conditioned self, and it's using information based on limited, finite data, whereas the awareness, it's infinite. In other words, the awareness is able to look at infinite possibilities of how to solve issues, because it knows it can look across the piece, as it were, whereas we can't. We can only look at what we think is the situation, and we're like in the Matrix, and the Matrix is like blinkers. So we're using a blinkered mind to solve a limited problem, and in other words, we're using what we think is going to be the solution to our problems, when in actual fact there is a wider picture that is known, which says, basically, I know that this is the way for you. It may not seem right the way for you through your intellect, but I know the way because I can see all the possibilities. So, probably having confused everybody here, I'm sorry if I have. I'll go through a little bit of relaxation. Right. So let's just chill. Let's just chill. Calm down. Just think about the top of your head and your scalp, just easing and relaxing. Just soothing down your brow. Let the muscles of your cheek relax. Just easing down. Thanking your body for looking after yourself all the time. Now there is innate intelligence at work. It requires no thinking. Just easing down, soft neck, calm, relaxed. Relaxed shoulders just going down through your body. Unburdened off your shoulders, because there's no burden apart from what you put on yourself, which is just made up. Because the body knows what to do, and now you're thanking the body and thinking about the body and the fact that it just works all the time, looking after you. To your tummy, a nice relaxed tummy, just easing off. Just breathing gently down through your body, just relaxed, easy, soothing. To your hips, just there being supported. Just feeling your thighs okay, relax there, relaxed muscles. Your legs, right down to your ankles, just loose, easy. So I said the calves are easy, your arms, your forearms, upper arms all relaxed, just going down, as I said, through your hips, through your thighs, right relaxed, ankles, right down to the very tips of your toes, just so easy, just now relaxed, just taking it easy, no problems. The only problems are what your mind makes up. Anything that happens is automatically taken care of by your awareness. Your essence knows what to do. Your psyche is able to function as it should and can and always does. It is not constrained by being blocked by any overlay of thought about what the world requires or what type of self the mind thinks you should be, because you already are that okayness, that niceness, that relaxed okayness. Everything's okay. That's right. Just being you, just being okay in the world. Knowing that when things happen, your innate okayness just takes care of it. When there's anything that needs to be done, it will know what to do and can always do it better for not having worried about having to do it better. Things are always being taken care of. Even if there's any pain there, what makes the suffering is thinking about the pain. So we can just relax and be with what is, which left to its own devices will always carry you through, always has done, because it's always there in this present moment. It's not going on about the past because it doesn't live there, because that's over and done with and doesn't exist now. It's not going on about the future. The future is unknown. We're only in the now. And giving ourselves rein to be able to use our best innate abilities to sort ourselves out as we go along will always give us that better future, because it's working from infinite possibilities, not the possibilities that our thought up self, our constrained self can present us with. Our innate okayness, our awareness knows what to do. And now we've just been aware of our body, just resting, having gone down through our body. So that's okay. You are okay. You always are okay. And in this state, we remain okay. Always better able to create the best future for ourselves, because our real self is now being allowed to shine through any self-imposed overlay that we have, which only hinders things. Once that's removed, this overlay of life that we put on things, this overlay of a false self that the mind relates to solve our problems when it can't. The mind doesn't speak in the language of solving problems. Awareness does. Our presence does. Our innate okayness uses that language of knowing what to do. We can rest in that, just like now we're resting. Very easy in our body, so relaxed, so okay, knowing that every moment is always as fresh as a daisy, in it the potential that every moment always brings us, because that's what life is doing. It is aware, it is presence, it is thriving, it is okay, there is no problem there, it is just living. And that's where the love is. Just looking after itself. This expanding awareness of okayness and thriving. Just being with that. That's healing. Healing the damage caused by working off these overlays, the stresses that caused. It's always soothed as soon as we go into our presence in the now of infinite potential, which always informs you through a knowing of what to do. Because that's what its job is. It always does that. And you reach that by removing that overlay. Well, when I say removing, by understanding that that overlay is in the way. It doesn't exist. It's an imaginary thing. It's a made-up thing. Don't take it seriously. Every time you take it seriously, you step away from your presence. But now we're with this presence, which is wonderful. It's nice just to sit with it. It is just beautiful. Just being with this mind-body connection. Being with what is. What has been always there. Which carries us along with its intelligence, knowing what's best for us, that can shine through us. Thank you. So we're back into the room. Thanks for listening. Sorry it's been a little bit woo-woo. I hope you've got something from this. Thank you very much.